Welcome to Exploring Reality Maybe, where we explore the intersection of science, medicine, and mysticism with experts.
Today we're joined by Ellyn Ito, co-founder of Interstil, a company dedicated to the development of neuroenergetic devices. As the innovator behind MindVybe, a first-of-its-kind vagus nerve and acupressure point stimulator, Ellyn works at the intersection of neuroscience and consciousness to revolutionize mental health therapies. Our conversation explores the science of neuromodulation and its potential to help with anxiety, depression, and stress without traditional medication-associated side effects. Ellyn's vision is to make these electroceuticals more accessible to those who suffer and struggle with mental challenges. From the technical aspects of nerve stimulation to the broader implications for mental wellness in our increasingly stressful world, this discussion offers insights into the future of mental health technology. Welcome, Ellyn. So you've developed a business strategy to pursue mental health technology, and I love that you call it electroceuticals. That's so cool. So I'd love you to tell us, set the stage for us. What are these neuromodulating technologies broadly? You don't have to go deep into it now. We can get more into it, but just sort of set the stage for us.
Sure. Yeah, so neuromodulating technologies refer to the use of either electrical current or transmagnetic current or light and sound to help modulate the brain, to help smooth out moods, help people feel better, lessen anxiety or depression, and really just kind of help people to feel better without necessarily the side effects of other medications that can sometimes interfere with other functions of the body.
Whew. Okay, well, so I mean, it's a pretty focused and unique area to pursue, especially with hardware and sound and wave and can you share a little bit about your background and early experiences that really attracted you to ultimately developing this kind of technology and focus?
Yeah, so I would say that I've always been into innovation. I've always been into ways to heal the body without trying to go down the path of using food or lifestyle to try and heal ailments. And that has a little bit to do just with my family history and kind of how we have worked to maintain health. But beyond that, having been in innovation, early on, I was involved in kind of the conglomeration of telecoms with video over IP and the connections that are made there. And it was very exciting, cutting edge stuff. And as I got more involved with other businesses through private equity in my own consulting firm, I ran across these companies, these medical device companies that were developing these technologies that help the body to heal itself. And it became very fascinating to me. And so that is how I jumped into neurostimulation, particularly electrical stimulation, and then had some firsthand experience with the technology we are launching that really drove me to get involved in co-founding this business.
So it's really interesting how our early life in a lot of ways creates a path forward for amazing work. And I know that you've had a journey with your family, a journey with your mother, and a journey really with trauma that actually opened your eyes and doors to some of this work. And I wondered if you could share a little bit more about that and how that has propelled you forward in your work.
Sure. Oh gosh, that's such a deep question. So I'll try and keep it short. So my mother was born in the Japanese American internment camps during World War II. My grandparents, her parents, were second generation American citizens and had built businesses, had been in the country for years when this happened, and they lost everything. But one of the things that we were taught and was, you're not explicitly taught the rules of your culture as you're growing up. But one of the things that we learned is that you don't stick your neck out, right? You don't call attention to yourself. You conform regardless of whether you like what's going on or not. Like you prove that you're worthy to be here.
That's a very
And
Japanese, that's a very Japanese kind of, yeah,
yes, yeah,
sort of approach. Yeah.
exactly. You have to prove that you're worthy. And beyond that, you don't want to ask for anything
Mm.
because you put your head down, you do the work, you work 3 times as hard. And along with that as well, the Japanese culture is very reserved, right?
Mm.
There's a lot of ritual around it. Um, you know, you communicate through action, not necessarily through speaking what you want or what it is you're doing, and you just follow the rules. And as an entrepreneur, you by nature cannot follow the rules in the sense of you are doing something different.
Mm.
And um, and when I think about my mother,
Mm.
who always had ideas of doing things differently, her father had very set ideas. She was to be a teacher. She really struggled. You would never see it externally. The most beautiful, gracious, kind, put together person you'd ever meet. But behind the scenes, she was frustrated.
Mm.
And so as I went about building these businesses, different enterprises that I've been involved with, one of the things that I kept knocking up against is this unsettlement that I would feel if I had to go out and pitch for money, do fundraising, or
Mm.
if I had to ask somebody to do something that I, didn't feel they were being compensated fairly enough for. And when you're building businesses, you have to be able to get out there and ask for help. And
Yes.
so it was actually through the help of Dov Baron, who is kind of taught me about emotional source code and what it was that was triggering me. And through some work and some introspection and some journaling, it was able to illuminate to me how my culture actually held me back.
Mm.
But it also illuminated to me how I could use it to move me forward, just from the parts of my culture that were spoke to strength and steadfastness and perseverance.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting, Ellen, and it really does sort of help to set the context and to set the stage. So let's get into the science.
Great.
Seems like that's sort of where your passion is. So
Yes.
Interstil works at the intersection, I would say, of science and consciousness. Is that fair?
Mhm. Yep, that is fair.
And exploring the biophysical mechanisms that make up the essence of who we are,
Mhm.
right? So, as I understand it from reading your website and looking at a little bit of your technology, you've got a chief scientific officer who helped develop the patented nerve stimulation work, and you've got a retired psychotherapist who integrates the outcome-based clinical aspects of the tech.
Yep.
So how do you put all these pieces together, and how
Oh
do you sort of,
gosh.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that,
and then don't forget our chief medical officer, Dr. Beth Dupree, who's a
okay.
renowned integrative medical doctor and oncologist who also takes that clinical bent as well to survivorship and wellness. But Dr. Katz-Nelson is an anesthesiologist by training, has been in neurostim since the 1980s when he first started developing these technologies. He has commercialized a handful of these technologies, one here in the US, the other is in Russia. He's been here since the 1990s. His whole idea and understanding the bioelectric mechanisms of the body and how it helps to modulate certain hormones is the backbone of our technologies. And then Hank Beckoff, who is a retired psychotherapist, has been working to apply these technologies and develop certain protocols around the delivery mechanisms for this. So, and Hank has also studied with Buddhist monks. He he is
Wow,
just one of the
I love
most
it.
connected people that I've worked with in terms of recognizing the humanity and the universality of the human spirit, particularly how that relates to humans here on Earth going through this physical life. And so that perspective, in conjunction with our devices that help people feel better, really help people to put perspective around their existence here and their diagnosis.
Yeah, so Interstil, the name of the company. So tell us what that sort of refers to.
Sure. Yeah, Interstil is the corporate organization that is developing a number of these technologies, and is kind of driving the experience in total. Then there's MindVybe, which is our first technology to market, which is a consumer wellness vagus nerve and acupressure point stimulator.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about MindVybe, because we were curious, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So MindVybe is an ultra low current multi-mode. It's the only multi-mode vagus nerve and acupressure point stimulator that in 25 or 50 minutes modulates the vagus nerve and stimulates acupressure points on the earlobe. It is the only technology that you cannot overstim with. So one of the things with electrical stimulation, if you get too much, your body can only handle so much. You can revert or cease to have an effect. Dr. Katznelson, our inventor, has developed an algorithm and an auto-regulated closed loop method to prevent that sort of overstimulation. And so it is very easy to use and safe to use, and it helps people chill out.
Yeah, so interesting. So as a neuroscientist, I'm just really fascinated by all this. I studied neurochemistry, and I studied the body's natural, when an animal decides to eat, or when an animal decides it's full, what's going on in the machine that causes the neurochemistry to change. And here you are trying to change the neurochemistry for the better. Talk to us a little bit. It seems like you focused on serotonergic systems as well as endorphins as the chemical pathways.
Yep, and dopaminergic systems
And
as well.
dopaminergic too. I studied all three of those systems.
They all kind of interrelate.
Yeah, so why did you focus on these pathways, and tell us a little bit about them?
Well, so the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body. It runs from the brain to the gut. It is the brain-gut axis. So many people don't realize the majority of serotonin is generated in the gut.
It sure is.
And so the vagus nerve is accessible through points on the skin. It comes near the skin. So it is easy to deliver stimulation there. And what we know, and no one is exactly sure how it happens specifically, but what we know is that when you deliver electrical current, it creates a propagation of ions throughout the body that then stimulates the release of certain neuropeptides. So here's an example. We know that vagal nerve stimulation stimulates the release of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is essential for the dopaminergic function. So one of the things that many people are struggling with is dopamine downregulation. By creating acetylcholine, the body naturally wants to have balance. It's always trying to find balance. And so, again, no one is exactly sure how, but that release of acetylcholine allows the dopamine receptors to operate, and the body then balances out the neuropeptides necessary for mood modulation. And so some of the things that we've found really exciting, this is a wellness technology, but we're continuing to do studies for those, for example, who are going through addiction recovery. Mm-hmm. They are severely dopamine downregulated. Really, anyone who's addicted to anything is dopamine downregulated. But we have been able to see very quickly, particularly for those who are not doing medication-assisted recovery, we're able to see very quickly how much vagal nerve stimulation helps to bring about relief. It brings down the agitation. It helps people feel more calm and more patient. And that is a huge part of helping people get through a recovery process. We've also seen where it reduces cravings. So there's much more that we need to study around this, but it's a really exciting area to be in.
So when someone is dealing with an issue like that, do they come to your office? Do they buy a machine? Is it over Zoom? Like how does
Yeah.
that work?
How does it work? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a handful of select practitioners across the country
Mm,
who are using MindVybe right now for their patients.
mm,
We also have Interstil, like I have a lounge in Hopewell where people can vibe. The goal is eventually to get these machines at home.
mm.
So it's just part of our pathway as we continue to grow the company. We
Oh,
know, for example, the reason why I got into this is during the pandemic, my son was struggling with severe anxiety. He was 15 and already kind of a
mm,
hot mess of hormones.
yeah.
But he started having these outbursts where he would say, I don't know why I'm doing this. I guess I'd be better off if I were not here.
No, boy.
So
So
we,
hard.
yeah, I knew that there were stimulators out there that could help. I tried some of them, and for those that create sensation, it really was it was alarming for him.
Mm.
Those that were very low levels didn't work with him. And then the first time I got him on MindVybe, it was like he had smoked weed.
Oh,
he
wow.
just he just relaxed, and
Oh,
that's what we see with a handful of individuals. It's not always the first response, but for
right.
many, particularly teenagers who are just stressed out, we see just kind of an immediate relaxation. And there's a cumulative effect to it
Yeah.
where it builds, and then they're able to maintain for some time.
So do you marry that with like an I-rest practice, which is like yoga nidra, or a meditation where the negative spinning mind calms down while you're doing especially for young people that the mind is just always spinning. And
Yeah.
I wondered if you marry it with those techniques.
So yeah, it depends on the practitioner.
Mm,
So Hank, when he works with people, he works on some of those meditative techniques, and one of the things that we find is that for people who say they can't meditate, they can't settle the mind.
yes.
Mind Vibe has been described as being meditation in a box.
So
And so
great.
once somebody knows what it feels like, it's
Mm.
much easier to allow them to use that tool without Mind Vibe to get
Yeah.
there more quickly.
It's so
Um,
good. It's so good
yeah,
because some people just they don't resonate with meditation. They don't know how to quiet their thinking mind, their intellect. And it's such a amazing offering, amazing technology and tool that you offer. And so you're also exploring or working with other non-invasive technologies that are
yeah,
direct current stimulators
yep,
to address symptoms of neurodegenerative diseases and other types of issues, mental, emotional issues. Can you share a
yeah.
little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we have another multimode technology that is being tested right now, which is a direct current stimulator as well as a non-invasive deep brain stimulator. And so we know that the deep brain regions where you have a lot of that endophenergic and serotonergic, that modulation occurs, we're able to access this through this very unique, what we call an interference current, very
Oh,
low level again. And then the direct current stimulation actually stimulates transcranially, the transcranial nerves, which are responsible for things like movement and cognition and that sort of thing. Um, Interestingly enough, and I don't know if you've heard this or not, but when people are in a stress state, so where they are overstimulated, and we have very high performing people who are always on, right? That's what gives you the edge.
yeah.
When you are in a stress state, you lose
Mm.
cognitive capacity, like up to 1/4% of your cognitive capacity.
Wow.
And so, what we've been able to see with Mind
Welcome to
Vibe
my
alone,
life.
right? It's you're always on.
Yeah.
And so what we've been able to see with MindVybe, forget the stimulation of the cranial nerves, just MindVybe in and of itself. By inducing relaxation, people have described how their third eye has been sharpened. They've been a little bit more creative, more patient as they work with their team members. They are able to slow down and explain things to people without getting impatient. And
Mm.
so when I think about the level of stress in this world,
Yeah.
um, it occurs to me that this may be part of the issue related to so much discord.
Oh, wow, boy,
Very,
so
very
true.
interesting. So, Ellyn, we want to move into sort of some of the business aspects and some real world issues. But
Sure.
before we leave the science, tell us, just give us a sense, because it's not quite clear to me. I come into your offices and I say, I want MindVybe or I want the stimulation.
Yep.
What does the whole thing look like? Are you sitting me in a chair and are you putting a cap on my head? Like, what is it? Rubber meets the
Yeah.
road. What does it look like
Yeah.
when
It's a
a
device
client
about
comes?
this big.
Okay.
It is portable. You can sit it next to you or you can hold it on your lap. We usually have it on a little table next.
Okay.
There are two earpieces that go here, and then a little neck electrode that goes there, and then two ear clips that stimulate acupressure points. So you come in, we ask you to sit down, lean back in a recliner, and you sit for 50 minutes, 25 or 50 minutes. Most people do the 50 minutes. We may play some music. Hank or one of our other therapists may work with you during the session. Some people like to meditate, and then you're done.
And the stimulation is happening all through the skin and through
Through
the
the skin.
cranium,
Yep,
through
yep.
the
And you
skin.
don't feel it, um, unless you're particularly interoceptive. Most people
Hmm.
don't feel any sensation,
Hmm.
and that's actually been a challenge for us because
Hmm.
people are like, "Is it on? It's not working. What's happening?"
Yeah.
And then after they're done and they're like, "Whoa, this is what relaxation feels like." It's a place that people don't realize how much they've normalized stress.
Mm.
And so we have a protocol just based on our studies where we recommend 5 sessions within a 7 to 10 day period.
Mm.
And then it tends to, that level of sessions tends to have enduring feelings of wellness for a good 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the individual. If somebody is, taking meds, it may not last quite as long. If somebody does gummies every night, it may not last quite as long, but it certainly helps people to calm down and in some cases focus.
So if you don't feel it, could it be described as a wavelength, a sound, or a frequency?
It's not a sound, it is a frequency. They're modulated frequencies. It's part
Modulated
of our
frequency. Uh-huh.
that's part of what makes it so
Mm.
effective.
Mm.
It actually delivers stimulation within the frequency ranges that the vagal nerve
Mm.
um, fires at.
Oh,
So very mild, very
it's
mild. We've had meditators who go on it and very quickly recognize that feeling, that theta state,
wow.
just through
I
that
can't wait to
engagement.
try it. I'm a meditator. I'm a
Oh, I'd
meditator.
love for you to try it.
I also think that, I'm working with the Kinder Foundation, and they have now a program called Kinder Workplaces. And I think this would be an amazing offering to hard-paced, busy
Yeah.
deadline companies of all types to have a little quiet room where someone could calm down before, during, before or after a meeting, not during probably.
Yeah, so
But, yeah,
we've
yeah,
done some work with companies around that. And
yeah.
one of the challenges are that people don't feel like they can take that break.
I know.
So we'll connect them up while they're working at their laptop. And it's
Wow.
interesting. The first couple of sessions they're working away, by the third or fourth session, they're like, okay, I can sit back now.
Nice. Oh my
And they're
God.
able to sit quietly.
That's
So
so
it's,
great.
yeah,
That's so great. Well, okay, so now you're an investor
yes.
in Interstil,
Hmm.
and you were an investor in Helios Medical.
A small investor, yes.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
can you share some of your insight as an investor on the allocation of capital into into this world of business,
Mhm.
and what you're hoping to have happen with Interstil, and what's your 5-year vision for that? And
Yeah,
as from a
sure.
business perspective, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things we know is that neuromodulation technologies, it is just now starting to really get some focus as we have more data and more studies that reflect its efficacy. But make no mistake, it is very much a threat to big pharma.
Mm.
It is a threat to pharma, because some of these technologies, when deployed correctly, can lessen the reliance on the chronic use of medications.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so this is actually one of the reasons why we chose to take MindVybe initially a wellness route,
Mm.
just from some of my previous experience at Helios.
Mm-hmm.
But the markets are starting to recognize, and there is a turn that we're seeing from people that are starting to recognize the long-term effects, unexpected effects of the chronic use of medications.
Oh boy.
And
Yeah.
we know that meds are absolutely necessary in acute situations and, for diseases, they save lives. But many of these psychotropics were not necessarily intended for the long-term
Mm.
decades of use.
Yes.
And there are side effects associated with them,
Right.
that often mimic neurodegeneration,
Mm.
right? They mess with the metabolism of the brain.
Mm.
And so we see a future 5 years out
Mm.
where our machines, along with other modalities as well, but our machines in particular, will be available at the home for people to optimize their neurological health in the same way that people optimize their physical health by hopping on their Peloton.
Wow.
So
Wow.
just
Wow.
given our lifestyles, the way we are living, we evolved, anthropology, we evolved very, very differently through millions of years, compared to the way we are living now.
Yeah.
We are completely overstimulated. We're seeing the result of that. We're not eating as cleanly as we did. We are living longer for sure. But we definitely need to take steps to engage our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest, digest, and recover system.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, wow, that's great. And really what you've been saying is, I guess, the world we're living in has so much anxiety, fear, and stress. We sort of found some of on your website, I think you wrote, so many people, adults and children, are struggling with symptoms of overstimulation and sympathetic overdrive. This
Mm.
creates a constant state of defensiveness, anxiousness, and inability to focus and difficulty in stilling the mind, which then impedes service-minded connections. When we are in a constant fight or flight or freeze state, our ego is on heightened alert and we close ourselves off to others and the world around us. Fear begets fear, and the fear eclipses love. I mean, I love that. I think that encapsulates kind of what you've been saying in
Exactly.
the whole episode. So give us some more thoughts on this, and tell us maybe what our
Sure.
listeners can do besides coming into an Interstill,
Yeah,
location to calm this fear cycle.
sure. Yeah. So, yeah, just to expand on that, if you think about one very clear way to understand whether or not you are overstimulated is to try sitting for 10 minutes to just quiet the mind.
Mm.
If you find that you can't do it, or suddenly you think, oh, I have this deadline, I have to get this done, or I need to call my daughter, or whatever it is, that's a pretty sure sign that you're overstimulated. And so some
And
things that you can,
these things, right, are not helpful.
well, actually, Anna Lemke has a really wonderful book um, about how the use of mobile devices have really interfered with our body's ability to maintain a healthy balance.
Yeah.
But when you are in a state of that, what we call the sympathetic overdrive, it's very, very difficult to try something new. It's designed that way, right? Your ego is designed to keep you safe. When you are in that fight, flight, or fear state, you are just going to retreat to doing what you know won't bite you.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so some of the things that you can do are, you may have heard of box breathing,
Mm.
where you breathe in,
Mhm.
count for 4, breathe out for 4 seconds. There's another technique where you take 2 breaths, breathing in through your nose, hold it for 4, and exhale. I mean,
Mhm.
even if you did that once to start, right? Little steps are all it takes. Next time, do it twice in a row. Next
Mhm.
time, do it 3 times in a row. And just start to build that into your practice. You don't have to jump to meditation right away. And the other thing about it is
Right.
having some compassion for yourself as
Mm.
you're starting to engage your parasympathetic is important.
Yeah.
Meaning, okay, I can't meditate for 10 minutes, but maybe I can do my breathing for 10 seconds.
Yes.
There's some other great eye movements that you can do to engage the parasympathetic. One is you look down very hard for 10 seconds, like you feel your eye muscles really, you feel them straining as you look down. You look to your left for 10 seconds, straining your eyes. You look up for 10 seconds, and then you look right. And you do that 3 times.
Mm.
And it's really remarkable. You can actually kind of feel a settlement that comes over you. That's something else that you can do. Singing is a great way to modulate the vagus nerve.
Oh, I love it.
Go outside and sing your favorite song. Go outside, breathe
Mm.
the air, take some deep breaths inside. And these are things that people already know. They've heard this before, but it's
Mm.
hard to put it into action when your ego is trying to keep you safe.
Yes. Yes.
So just
Fight or
be
flight.
aware of that so you can move out of that bit
Mm.
by bit.
Mm. One of our interviews that we had recently was with Brendan Bensley from Magnus, from the Magnus Group, and his technology is the type that micro analyzes the neural pathways and he's become very sophisticated in determining various types of modalities so that someone who comes in with like 30 years of depression, he warns them and says, your life is going to change after this treatment. It won't go back to where it was. And I wonder if you feel that in 10 or 15 years that these types of technologies that stop, whether it's a chemical imbalance or a negative spinning mind that just stops these challenges in their tracks, will be sort of a given modality starting in kindergarten or first grade, or with ADHD, whatever it is, ADHD,
Yeah,
and like, do you feel like it right now we're at the cusp of this breakthrough in innovation, and that it will be part of our health food store or the grocery store?
absolutely.
Yeah,
I have no doubt
yeah.
because the science is starting to snowball. We're actually doing an autism and ADHD study right now in Florida. Um, as we get the data and the efficacy behind it, we will see more and more use cases for it where people will say, yeah, you know what? There are no side effects with this thing.
Right.
So why not start here first? And then if I need to go to a drug or a medication or whatever it is, then I'll do that. But let's try to nip it in the bud. And I'll tell you, that's
Electroceuticals, then pharmaceuticals.
exactly,
Yeah, there we
which
go.
is, it's challenging that it's, but there's no doubt that we will get there.
Wonderful. So, Ellyn, you kind of touched on this just a moment ago. We always like to ask our guests to share their thoughts on what they think about the ego, what the ego is, and how their work and how your work explores what we know about the ego and as it relates to stress responses or fight or flight type responses. Talk to us a little bit about your view of the ego.
Sure. I guess my view of the ego is best summed up by something that Hank Beckoff, our co-founder, shared. And he was talking with an individual, and I was there, and he said, this is your ego putting up the wall. And he said the ego edges God out. EGO. And I was like, whoa, hold on. What did you just say? And he's like, it edges God out. And if we think about what the ego is, right? It's your master controller. And when you are behind the gates of the ego, it's very, very difficult to explore in ways that don't seem safe. And when you are in stress, we talked about this earlier, it just keeps you stuck. There's good stress, there's bad stress. The body doesn't know the difference. So it's really important to engage that rest, digest, and recover. And one of the things we find, again, as mentioned earlier, is people are much more willing to explore and be open. And so when I think about this divisiveness right now, think about it. Everybody has to be right. My view is the right view, right? This whole ego-driven, I'm right, you're wrong, yay, we won, bummer, we lost. When in fact, again, depending on what your views are, we are all one and the same. And in order to create and find that connection and really relate at the human spiritual level, it means being able to take some of those fences down. And that's where I feel I've seen it firsthand, where our technologies, just also like plant medicine, right? Certain psychedelic medicines, some of these things can help create a situation where you are thinking with your whole brain, and your whole brain means your whole self.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So beautiful. I always think that, we may view things or disagree, but there's some bridge that we could cross and meet in the middle for which we do things that we do agree upon. Like, where
Yeah.
is it that we do agree? And let's meet there. Let's meet
Yes.
at that touch point instead of focusing on what we don't agree upon.
Yeah.
And our divisiveness. It's so amazing. Can you tell us now, like, what's next for you, and what
Sure.
what's exciting? What are you hoping 2025 brings? And then also how our audience can get in touch with you, can learn about these technologies. Yes.
Absolutely. So super exciting studies that we're launching right now. We're in the middle of our ADHD autism spectrum disorder study in Florida. We're getting ready. March 1st, we'll be launching a breast cancer study for survivorship and MindVybe's ability to help people reduce anxiety, improve sleep, and the stress associated with the cancer diagnosis. We are looking at a very early feasibility study for Parkinson's disease, early stage Parkinson's, with our wellness technology. So we're really excited to get these things kicked off. We are also very excited to continue the real world evidence we're gathering through our practitioners. And then, of course, it probably won't be until the end of the year, but we are vigorously testing our non-invasive deep brain stimulator and direct current stimulator. And so our goal really is to get these things out. We're also doing a push to get the home unit done, because people need this technology in their home. So we have a lot planned for 2025. I need
Sign
to
me
go
up.
vibe, actually, thinking about it. Oh, and you can reach us through www.mindvibe.com. You can reach me through, feel free to email me. I love talking to people about this. I love educating people around this, particularly if there are centers that would be interested in this. We are more than willing to devote some time to help people feel better. So, for example, through our coach in Hawaii, we're going to be setting up some centers in LA pop-up spots to be able to treat some people who are survivors and first responders from the fire, just to help chill people out. So I'm always open to talking to people about those sorts of endeavors as well.
And
Well-
you'll find information in our show notes. So if you want to get a hold of Ellyn, learn about her technologies, look at her website, all of that information will be in the show notes.
And
So-
that's MindVybe with a Y, right?
Correct.
MindVybe, VYBE. Well,
Yeah.
Ellyn, thank you so much for your time today and for telling us about your wonderful technology. We really appreciate it.
No, I am honored to be here. Love the conversation, and just thank you for inviting me on.
Been wonderful. Thank you, Ellyn.
All right. Thank you, Jody. Bye-bye, David.
Now this is cool. The music you have been listening to is actually my consciousness in motion. To create this hypnotic music, Marsha Britskaya of Nextvox and her team connected musical notes to the frequency of my brainwaves from gamma to delta. The team at Nextvox will be exploring how listening to your own brainwaves can provide health benefits from reducing your blood pressure to calming anxiety. Visit our show notes to learn more about Nextvox.
Exploring Reality Maybe is written, produced, fact-checked, and edited by Jody R. Weiss and David Schwartz. Research support is provided by Semicolon Connects. Music produced by Nextvox. Visit our website at exploringrealitymaybe.org to find show notes, transcripts, bios, and to learn more. If you like the show, please visit our website to donate.